Hey, and welcome to the Jessica Paul podcast. I'm your host, Jess Paul, actress, manifestation expert, and mindset coach. And I'm here to share with you all of my secrets on confidence, success, and the magic of manifestation. If you're ready to dive in deep and see more success in your career, more money in your bank account, and more love in your life, with a whole new level of freedom, then you're in the right place. I'm letting loose on everything you need to take back control of your life, up-level your mindset, and tap into your manifestation powers. I'm so excited that you're here. Hey, hello, you gorgeous, gorgeous souls, and welcome back to another episode of the JP podcast. And we are just about to enter into a brand new freaking year. Guys, I'm so excited for 2023. I hope you guys are too. And remember, like I said, sending all the love to those of you that maybe aren't feeling great moving into this year. You're in control of your life. And actually, this is what today's episode is going to be about. I genuinely thought that the last episode of the year was last week's, and then I looked at the calendar and I was like, oh, hang on, I've got 2 more days. We're not in 2023 yet. So this episode, I want to go in on one of the number one reasons for your success. One of the number one things that you guys have to remember and we have to embody to be successful human beings. And I think it's like a perfect thing to chat about moving into the new year. But first, oh my God, life update. Guys, I am officially an auntie to the gorgeous Etta Rose Anderson. My sister had her baby on the 20th of December at 3:50. This is a very spiritual baba. I knew she would be though. And I also knew she was going to be a girl. Like our whole family really, but especially me and mum and my sister, like we would just immediately go to being like, oh, she and her. And we'd be calling her these things. And we just like intuitively knew. But both baby and mama are healthy and happy and beautiful. And I'm just so proud of my sister. Like, we FaceTimed however many hours after she'd given birth, and she just looks so put together. I was like, how are you looking like that? But me and my sister are so different in the sense that she is really matter of fact about things. Like, she's a doctor and she's used to being in hospitals, and you know, she knows about all these procedures and things like this, and she was just like, yeah, all good, everything's great. And I was like, oh my God, I would be completely different. Like, I would be an emotional wreck. I mean, God help the guy who has a baby with me in the future. But my sister did incredibly well. And in true Jess style, I have, of course, gone straight to figuring out this little baba's charts. So she's actually a Sagittarius sun, a Scorpio moon, and a Cancer rising. She's got that Scorpio in her like me, which we love. And she's fiery. She is fiery as hell, this little girl, with this Sag energy. She is a manifesting generator in human design, and she's also a number 11 in numerology. This is one of the master numbers. You got 3 master numbers, 11, 22, and 33, and this is just basically like one of the most spiritually aligned numbers you can be born in. It's incredibly psychic. I just knew that this soul was coming through to teach a lot of us on Earth some lessons. And I'm so here for it. Side note, guys, I'm actually looking to get an expert in numerology on the podcast very soon, because I have been diving down a hole in numerology and it is fascinating. So I'm really excited to bring this onto the podcast for you guys so that we can go into it even deeper. So as you can tell, guys, I'm pretty freaking excited about becoming an auntie. I've actually fallen in love. I didn't realize like I would feel this strongly. Like I didn't know how I was going to feel, because I've not become an auntie before. This is like the first time. This is also the first time in my entire family, and I've got a big family, guys, in terms of like cousins and aunties, uncles, everything. This is the first time we've had a great grandchild, basically, like as in my grandma's still around, and this is the first time she's seen a great grandchild out of all of our cousins and everything. So it's kind of a big deal for our family too. So yeah, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited for time ahead and for this little human being to become its own person, to become her own person. It's really funny. I'm trying to like disassociate from calling it baby, because that's what we've been doing for the past 9 months. But now it's like, it's little Etta Anderson. And I'm so proud of my sister and her husband, Paul, and our whole family. I am such a family person, as you've already guessed. So I will be posting all the updates on social media. I'm sure you're going to see a hell of a lot of photos of this little baba. So I just think we're going to go straight on into today's episode. It's probably going to be a shorter episode. It's going to be quick. It's going to be punchy as the last episode of 2022, moving you into 2023 with that knowledge on that number one thing that you guys need to remember in order to be successful human beings. And that is, we all need to take responsibility for our lives. We need to take goddamn responsibility for our lives, our careers, our relationships, everything that's going on in our life. When we don't take responsibility for what is happening, we fall into the trap of victim. And one thing that I've actually seen really recently is this movement between awakenings in terms of when I first started, my mindset journey. I had a mindset awakening first, right? And I just suddenly realized and I was triggered into changing the way I thought about myself and the world. And so I went through this huge self-love awakening years ago where I was just so focused on healing my soul and, remembering that I am freaking worthy and that, I can have everything I want in life and that I'm a divine and a spiritual and whole being and that I'm deserving of it all, right? And this self-love awakening is so important for everybody to go through on this earth, because I just feel that there's so many people that have been conditioned to believe so many negative things about themselves, and which is why, I do the work that I do. But that's probably one of the first stages you go through in these awakenings, in order to become this truly successful high achiever that's manifesting everything into their life. It was the very first thing that I went through. And again, so you might be at different stages listening to this podcast, but you guys always need to remember that aspect of yourself. So we go through this self-love awakening, and in that, guys, I have seen some people can actually fall into this trap of victimhood even after going through that awakening. Because what tends to happen is you tend to look at yourself and heal yourself and go, well, I'm perfect and I'm whole, and you kind of cuddle up in this self-love. And therefore, when something then goes wrong in your life, you can immediately jump to blame. You can start blaming other people because you can be like, well, I'm perfect. I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know that I'm a good person. So why is this not working for me? And the fact is, if we are all perfect, whole, and divine beings, which we are, then if you're blaming another divine human being, what is that saying about yourself? Because we're all mirrors here. If you're blaming somebody else, you've got to look inside yourself and go, hang on a sec, how could I be the problem here? If we're all divine beings, how am I being the problem? How am I getting in my own way? And this is something that I have personally been looking at in one aspect of my life, because remember, you got to take responsibility for every area of your life. If there's something not working, if there's something not manifesting for you, you got to look and see where you're being the problem, rather than cuddling up in the self-love and going, but I can't do any wrong because I'm a perfect divine being. You've got to go, hang on a sec, how can I pull myself up? How can I call myself out and take responsibility right now for my life in general? So I want to give you an example here, because personally for me, I pride myself in being hyper self-aware. I am always pulling myself up on these things. I've been doing this self-development work for years now, so it's not something that I would never jump to a place of victimhood now. That's just not a natural state of being for me anymore. It used to be, and I had to work at practicing my mindset and my vibration. But now, my natural point of vibration is just to be like, okay, let's have a look at myself and where I could be being the problem. However, I've recently discovered that there was an area of my life that I had been kind of neglecting in this sense and sort of being the victim without realizing it. And again, this is part of hyper self-awareness. So for me, this area was love and relationships and men and dating. And this is something I've been doing a lot of work on throughout 2022. And actually, I was watching one of my good friends, Taylor Carr. She's a femininity coach. She's actually going to be coming on my podcast soon. And she was chatting about dating and relationships again. And she was just basically saying, if you don't take responsibility for how you're being in your relationships, then that's the reason that your relationships aren't manifesting in the way you want them to. And I took a little step back and I looked at how I was with men and dating. And personally for me, I can get into this space of kind of not feeling like men are good enough for me, right? And I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I mean that in a sense of I've got high freaking standards. I know who I am. I know what I want. These are all amazing qualities in people. And if you're, working on setting boundaries for yourself and becoming that woman who, doesn't settle for less, good for you, because you need to be there, right? We all do. However, if you're actually turning round to another divine human being and telling them or, affirming to yourself that they're not good enough for you, what is that saying about you? Because remember, we're all mirrors. And I actually took a step back and looked at how I was with men, and I thought, you know what, I can fall into that trap of just affirming, and I see it as well online. I hear a lot of women saying it in life, he's not good enough, or he's done this, or he's a fuck boy, or it's all his fault, all men are bad. I hear it a lot. And if we just actually took a step back and took responsibility for how the role we were playing in the relationship, how could things shift? So for me, when it comes to dating, rather than me hiding behind these high standards that I've set for myself, kind of claiming, well, you don't understand spirituality, or you don't understand business, or you're not as driven as me, or you're not as this, or you're not enough of this, rather than me kind of blaming men for not being good enough, I have to look at myself and go, well, how could I be more accepting towards the dating world? How could I be more accepting and open towards a man having his own thing go on in his life and growing with him, growing together, rather than being so rigid in these standards of like, well, I know my worth and I know that I'm good enough, so this is what you should be too. That's not, especially when it comes to relationships, that's not how it works, guys. We're all our own human being, and, we're all just as divine as each other, like I've said. And this personally for me has been eye-opening, because I had to accept where I was being the problem, and it's not always the case that you always are the problem. Yes, you might be in the dating scene and the man might be the problem. He might not be good enough for you. You've got to use your discernment over these things. But equally, if you're not looking in on yourself first and asking yourself, how can I grow? How can I shift? How can I expand my mindset? Then nothing's going to shift in your reality. And of course, I'm going in on one specific area of life here because this is the thing I'm working through personally. But let's say, for example, in your career, like you're not moving forward in your career like you want to. You're not manifesting the job opportunities. The things aren't coming up for you. Before looking externally and blaming everybody else, or blaming the industry you're in, or blaming the business world, or just blaming how hard it is to make money, and if you're, instead of doing that, first off, you're looking at yourself and you're going, okay, well, what am I believing about what I do in my career? As an actor, for example, because obviously that's where I come from as well. I see this a lot in the acting industry, with so many actors just kind of jumping to the conclusion that, there's not enough work out there, or there's not enough job opportunities. Casting directors don't want to seek out new talent. Like, it's always the same people. Like, there's just not enough, right? And just being in this, it's always somebody else's fault. Like, that's what I hear so much in the industry, because that's the easiest place to go to at the end of the day, guys. Like, it is so easy for us to blame other people and other things for our circumstance. But really, like, if the first thing you can do is look inside yourself and ask, what am I believing about the situation? What am I believing about money? What am I believing about success? What am I believing about my career? Then that's where you're going to open up, like, a world of possibilities to actually change the reality that you're in. And my main message here really is that we can shift into this space of empowerment and, go through these self-love awakenings where we do shift into these standards, where we're like, yeah, here's a boundary I'm going to set. Here's all the things that I believe in myself because I'm deserving and I'm worthy, when you do hit that stage, because remember, we're all at different stages. But once you have gone through this awakening stage of knowing your worth, we can still fall victim, because we're in this space of like, well, I know what I am worthy of. So if you're not up to my standard, or if this thing's not working, then it's your fault. And that's completely the wrong energy. Like, it is entirely the wrong vibe that we want to get into, because one of the principle, like I said, the number one principle to success is being hyper aware, being hyper self-aware, and taking responsibility, throughout your whole goddamn life. Because even where I'm at right now, where I have been doing this work for freaking years now, guys, like my whole business is centered around this. I'm helping amazing people manifest the life of their dreams. But even still, I can still pull myself up on stuff right now, which is what I'm doing within love and relationships. Like, there's still areas in your life when you shift and when you grow where you're going to find yourself falling into this. And one of the main things about successful people is that you're pulling yourself up on it and you're calling yourself out on it straight away. Like, there is no delay in this. Like, we have no time for sitting in a place of victimhood. We have no time for it, right? We're moving too fast. Our vibe is too sped up for that. So as soon as something comes up, as soon as there is a problem in your life, something's not working in your life, it's going straight to the shadow aspect in yourself. Straight away going to, okay, what am I doing? How could I be the problem first and foremost? And then once you do work through that and you discover what's going on in your shadow aspect, because remember, like, we all have that shadow aspect, and you figure things out and you maybe like transform some beliefs that you have, but then you still see that there is still an issue going on, then yeah, maybe that other person is the problem. But at least you've done the work for yourself. At least you've pulled yourself up on it, and in yourself that you've done everything you can. That is the mindset and the energy of a very, very successful person. So don't cuddle up in the self-love. Make sure you're taking responsibility. Know that there is usually, when something's not working in your life, that you're probably part of the problem, but don't hate yourself for that, because this is the whole point of self-love. Like, we can look at our shadow aspects and, learn more about ourselves and come out the other side, and we don't have to hate ourselves for it. And I could go into a whole episode on shadow work, because that's like a huge thing about it. It's one of the biggest things I work through in my academy with my students, like this whole knowing that we have a shadow aspect. Like, that's just a part of the polarity in life, but it doesn't mean that we have to hate ourselves for it. Like, it just is, it just is. So being able to call yourself out and take responsibility is key. And once you get that, you're in that top 10% of successful people. So do some homework moving into 2023. Have a look at the areas of your life that aren't working for you right now, or that you're telling yourself aren't working for you right now. Maybe the areas you're not manifesting in, and look inside you. Take freaking responsibility for what is going on. Don't play the blame game. Don't make it anybody else's fault. Take back control and know that you have that power. That is the main thing here. You all have that power in your life. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It has been a real kind of brain splurge on this number one principle to success. If you are loving the podcast, please do, again, go ahead and leave it a little 5-star and review, because that really does mean the world to me. I'd love you forever. And move into 2023 is that bad bitch. Yes. Guys, I'm so excited for you all. And I'm so excited for my little niece, Etta. Sending you all so much love moving into the new year. And I will chat to you all very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who you think would love it too. And if you want to let me know how you found it, just screenshot this episode, add it to your Instagram story, and tag me at I am Jessica Paul so that I can throw all the love right back at you. And of course, subscribe, hit those 5 stars, and leave a review to show your support and to keep the good stuff coming. Sending you so much love and gratitude from your girl Jess.